Hello, today I will be presenting on a AMA webinar that is about the potential uses of genetic data in marketing. So what is genetic data? Genetic data is a person's DNA, which is unique to them, and it really is the coding for everything about them. So all the way from physical traits to medical history, health information, genetic relationships between people. It can tell you a lot and it is unique to the person. Um, your DNA is passed down to the offspring. So one person's DNA is half from the mother and half from the father. So that explains how you can link people together and trace the relationships. And originally it was used for more medical and scientific research and discoveries, but it also has been used in law enforcement and obviously ancestry and genealogy. So, who is using genetic data in marketing right now? One really popular company that we all know is Spotify. So, they have partnered up with 23andMe, which is a very popular platform for ancestry tracking and testing. And they have gotten the data and have been able to recommend and send music that might align or connect with someone's ancestry. Similar is Airbnb. They have used the genetic data from their users to recommend travel destinations, travel plans, things like that. So then people can reconnect with their ancestry. And then another interesting one is the World Cup. Got genetic data from also 23andMe and were able to recommend what country people should root for in the soccer tournament. So people can, cheer on their family line and their country from where they're from. So that's really interesting. And genetic data has allowed companies to target and segment their marketing communications in a very interesting and successful way. For one example is linking them to traits that you can find out from DNA and genes. So an example is someone being lactose intolerant. If a company can get that information, they're not going to target to that specific group of people if they know that it's not even in their target. Another interesting way is using ancestry to promote community. So, an example of this is a place in Mexico offered discounts to people in the US if they had a certain amount of Mexican genes. So, that's definitely an interesting way. I mean, if you're part of a community, then you can target just directly to that. And then another interesting way is people have used ancestry information to suggest goods or services. That's like the Spotify and Airbnb examples. So, certain types of food, music, entertainment. If your genetic codes for something, then it's really interesting to promote those goods or services that might align with that information that these companies are getting. With all of this data, though, it does come with very clear privacy concerns. The thing is, it's very specific data, so it's incredibly sensitive and unique. And obviously, once you consent to a company having this data, there are risks of hacks or leaks or things like that. You don't always know where your data is going to go once you put it out there. So that is definitely a big concern. And also, a person's DNA is mixes of everyone else in that family. So you might consent to your data being given to a company, but maybe your mother or father didn't, and part of your data is from them. So there's definitely concerns with people down the line not wanting their information out, but you can't quite control that if someone already gave it. There are definitely negative sides of using genetic data, and one big thing is misinformation. There have been people that have been told lies and been misinformed about things that might reflect genetic data. So, an example is Chinese parents were told their kids were going to be prodigies, but it was not the case. And they just read this genetic data and saw that, maybe they could have these certain traits, but it wasn't always the case. And then another interesting one is discrimination. So, with the genetic data, it's going to be really easy to segment and target, like we spoke about, but that can also lead to places like universities only accepting a certain type of genes, and then that turns into discrimination, and obviously there's issues that come along with that. And then another thing is the regulations are just really underdeveloped and underexplored right now. Europe does have a pretty strong data protection, which is the GDPR, and you have to clearly consent to using any data, but, it's still not the strongest regulations and laws out there and definitely underexplored right now. But there are definitely positives that come with using genetic data for marketing, and one is that it's cost efficient. Genetic testing and data collection can be pretty low cost compared to other methods out there. Another thing is it is decently secure because the information is so unique and sensitive. There are good encryptions and sites that control that, and most of the time it is privately owned, so that definitely helps the security of it. And then another thing is it's just a growing field right now with the increase of technology and artificial intelligence. Genetic data is also going to increase in the places we see it being used, the strength of it, maybe collection methods, who knows what can happen in the future. And also, regulation opportunities. I did say it was underdeveloped, but that isn't always a negative thing. There's always room for growth and exploring how to strengthen it. So, if you can use it in the right way and protect it, the opportunities are huge and, can lead to great discoveries. So that's my presentation on how genetic data is being used in marketing right now, and I hope you enjoyed.